Okay, welcome back, everybody. Um, I'm Josh Swihart, the CEO of Electric Coin Company. Thanks for joining us, and we're going to give you a little bit to kind of a little bit of information to kind of lay out the rationale and the vision for Zashi. I'm going to talk like this is a joint presentation between Andrea and I, and actually she's really the star, so she's going to do most of the talking, and I'm just going to set it up a little bit. So, like, what is Zashi? Many of you think Zashi is a wallet for Zcash, and you'd be right, but there's a lot more. So let's jump in, and I'll give some instructions to Andrea's running the slides as well, so I'm gonna have to let her know when to move on. I won't linger too long on this slide. There's some QR codes. If you haven't downloaded Zashi yet, please do. We got some news about that today too. But we have both iOS and Android, and we would love your feedback. We'd love for you to use it. Thank you for everybody that have been using it and sending us feedback and giving us ideas. We've built this product for you, so please try it if you haven't tried it. Okay, so the next slide. I'll start by providing an overview of the vision, and then Andrea is going to take you on a journey through what we did last year, the things that we've learned, and then share where we're headed. Let's hit the next one. So let's start from the beginning. We don't have a lot. We don't have time to go all the way back through the history of money, but let's just say that it's gone through some changes over the centuries. If you hit the next slide. So we'll go back just a few years. So when I was a kid, and maybe it's still true for some of you, we had these things called paper notes that we could exchange. And we were able to put them in little leather pouches and put them into our pockets. And we could buy stuff with it. And if we had these notes, if we had more notes than we were comfortable carrying around in our pocket at any given time, we deposited into a thing called a bank, and the bank would secure them and make use of them for lending. They'd take some profit, and maybe we might generate a little bit of yield on our savings in the bank. Hit the next one. So with the advent of digital currencies, as we kind of humans do, we tried to build digital analogs for the same things. So we created a new kind of leather pouch that was digitized, and we called it a wallet. And likewise in crypto, we needed the analog for a bank, and so we created that as well, and we called that a central exchange. Now that is our centralized exchange. So with the wallets, now we have thousands or tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands. I don't know how many tokens out in the world, and they all have different properties. They do different things, whether they're smart contracting tokens, or you can stake them, or they're meme coins, or prediction market, used in prediction markets or whatever. And then we created these wallets to try to encapsulate all of these use cases, and we created a mess. With a bank, it's basically like a bank. It started as like an exchange, just a centralized exchange for exchanging one token for another. But it's turned into a custodial service. You can stake and earn some yield at centralized exchanges. You can do a lot of the same things that you could do at a traditional bank with a centralized exchange. And it's gotten so much, I mean, the wallet kind of experience has gotten so bad, and the bank experience has gotten so good in terms of the user experience, that many people actually don't even remove their cryptocurrencies from the exchange. They just speculate on them and keep them locked there. The next slide. So like we fell into this trap. When we invented Zcash, we worked hard first to get them into some wallets, but only transparently, because shielded Zcash, if you weren't around before 2018 or so, shielded Zcash couldn't be used on a mobile device. Just wasn't possible. So the only thing these messy wallets could use was transparent Zcash. And then we worked with exchanges to get it listed. And really the only thing they could use at that point was also transparent Zcash, because it didn't scale, wasn't performant. But even as it became performant, we went back to these exchanges, we went back to the wallet providers, and pushed for them to add shielded Zcash, to use the privacy preserving properties of Zcash. And quite frankly, most of them couldn't be bothered. There were some that did, like Edge and Unstoppable, but most did not. And most of the major ones, most of the ones with the highest amount of adoption, did not. Likewise with exchanges, they refused to do it. They couldn't be bothered. In some cases, they want to be able to trace their users, and they didn't want the ability to, or a user's ability to have their funds shielded. Some of that now is, it's gotten like it's gotten even worse, right? Where governments and it's not just regulatory, but there's been actual overreach at some of these banks, where banks have been these centralized exchanges have been asked to provide additional information beyond even maybe what's legal. They want to be able to surveil, they want to be able to control. And so this adoption of this supposed unstoppable private money has been slowed. So we could continue to weather this storm. We could continue to try to push against these winds and work to comply with these exchanges and work to comply with these wallets, or we can choose a different path. The next slide, please. So I say we opt out, not by giving them the middle finger, but by building something better. Next slide, please. That's why this last year we launched Zashi. So yes, Zashi is a wallet, but Zashi is really intended to be a new integrated financial system to store, to spend, to swap ZEC privately, freely, securely. Next slide, please. We envision it being made up of three parts. The one that we've launched this last year is Zashi, the wallet. So the wallet is used for everyday payments. You carry it around in your pocket, just like you would carry around a leather pouch. It's optimized to help you do day-to-day things that you want to do with your ZEC, like buy a cup of coffee or pay for your burrito. We envision Zashi Vault to be a digital safe for storage and advanced features. It's intended to be your own private bank. You own it. There's no intrusive KYC. There's no centralized authority to shut you down. There's no authority needed because you are the authority. And of course, all of these are enabled by the Zcash protocol that protects your privacy and provides all the decentralized rails that you need to be able to support this. The next, please. So here's some things that we're building for the Zashi wallet. Andrea is going to spend some more time on some of these things that are coming in the near term, but I want to focus on a few of them. So if you've used it, you know that it's a simple, low friction mechanism for payments with ZEC. So we actually want to build the capability to be able to send and receive shielded ZEC in 2 seconds or less. And so there's a question about how is that even possible? How is that even possible given 75-second block times and the number of confirmations that you need? Sean is working on some interesting research. Our team will be working on some interesting research to allow these kinds of fast payments, instant payments, what we called. We want to support multiple accounts. We've integrated with Flexa for payments, and we'll continue to look at more options related to payments. So Flexa is presenting here today as well, and so hopefully you'll catch Trev's presentation. We want to enable payments through a DEX, and this for some people I think is maybe a little bit counterintuitive. So most people think of a DEX as a swap between yourself. Like I'm going to swap my Bitcoin for Zcash, and I'm going to keep both in my wallet. But DEXs unlock a pretty cool kind of capability to allow for a sender and a receiver to transact without agreeing on which coin that they want to hold. So if I have shielded ZEC and the person that I'm sending money to wants to receive USDC, then I can use a DEX, and I can send a payment through that DEX to that end user. So that's something that we'll be exploring. We'll be adding auto shielding. Today in Zashi, you have to make a decision to shield the funds that are received transparently. We want to give people the option just to turn that on so that it would just auto shield. We're looking at cross-chain payments. So, with the recent integration with Near, but other chains as well. We're looking at liberated payments. I know the Zingo team is looking at the the same capabilities. So the ability to send a payment via a message that someone can claim, and if they don't claim it, you can get the money back. We're looking at social key recovery, looking at mechanisms to allow you to roam and minimize your risk when roaming. So if you're crossing borders or you're traveling, somebody gets a hold of your phone, somebody forces you to open your wallet, how do we make that less risky for our users? And then people want the ability to send, receive, and swap Zcash shielded assets, which is something that we'll look at when that's available. For Zashi Vault, again, it's intended to be your own private bank. So it doesn't exist yet, but we plan to build it for you. And so some of the capabilities that we see as important are these that are listed. And we're learning, though, and we need your feedback. And we've been doing user surveys. And so thanks for participating in those and the user interviews that Tatiana's been running. But these are some of the things that we think should be in there and some of the things that you told us should be in there. So we want to make this a secure place to store your ZEC and your ZSAs, to include the hardware wallet support here, Keystone and maybe others, to be able to support multiple vaults, to do things like time locks, so that I can send a transaction that has that's kind of time bound. So money it's sent, but it's not delivered for some period of time, and then I have the potentially to either redirect those funds or revoke those funds, should I want to do that. But to be able to do that for security. Address whitelisting, looking at multi-sig with Frost, advanced key recovery and management, duress lockouts, legacy transfer, so inheritance, and we'll touch on that in a upcoming screen. Being able to generate yield through staking and delegation based on the work that Shielded Labs is doing to incorporate that in. Lending and borrowing cross-chain, so access to DeFi through these other chains like Near. Agentic automation, if I have like scheduled things that I want to use my Shielded ZEC for, maybe micropayments or something else. And then coin holder voting is something that we'll add to Zashi Vault. So again, we haven't built the software yet. We intend to build it with a great user experience, the kind of user experience you've come to know in Zashi, but it's still built for normies. It's more complicated, but it's still built for normies, and it provides more tools to help assist users with a kind of a deeper understanding of advanced features and how to protect the privacy. We're currently working on design concepts, and so some of these is what we're sharing today. Next one. So while we envision this being packed full of features, we envision actually the user experience to be adaptable with capabilities that can be turned on or off based on user preferences. So we also want to make it intuitive to set up multiple vaults protected by multiple keys for your ZEC and your Zcash shielded assets. We, as I mentioned, like Tatiana has run some initial surveys, and one of the kind of interesting insights that came out is that while most Zcashers that participate in the surveys feel confident about their ability to store and manage their shield ZEC, most are not confident in their ability to for their loved ones to be able to access the ZEC should something happen to them. Something like inheritance becomes really important. If I were to die, would my family be able to get access my assets? And so that's why many people will use a centralized exchange. It's like, if I use a centralized exchange, then perhaps it will be easier to recover those assets. So in this case, we plan to designate beneficiaries to users' vaults so that funds are easily recoverable by loved ones if needed. So we're still in research and planning, and we're going to look for the funding needed to build out the project. If we can get it funded, then we'll get to work right away. Again, please let us know what you think. And with that, I'll hand the keys over to Andrea, who's going to lead us through the rest of the presentation.
Thank you, Josh. Hello, friends of Zcash. My name is Andrea, as you probably understood. I'm with ECC for a year now, and I'm the person who is product and project managing Zashi development. Thank you so much for joining us and for being curious about Zashi. My plan today is to take you on a journey, report on what we have delivered, how we made it happen, what impact it really made, and what are our next steps and plans when it comes to Zashi. A lot to cover, so let's jump right in. And I will start by saying that I think that we have a lot to celebrate and be proud of when it comes to Zashi development and growth as a product in 2024. And I would just love to demonstrate to you why I think so. So Zashi release timeline was set at ZBoot in February, and we made it to production within 2 months on iOS and 3 months on Android. But we also shipped many more releases after that. Majority of the features and integrations we built were to facilitate payments and storage of Zcash. Some were to comply with bigger community requirements like support of text addresses or ZIP320. I will talk in greater detail about the integration, but I should also mention that we delivered some pretty major features this year, like request ZEC, so ZIP321 support in cooperation with Paku, privacy-preserving currency conversion feature, which fetches exchange rate over Tor, address book feature, initial implementation of node management, which now allows Zashi's users to send more transactions one after another. We also introduced Spanish localization. And on top of that, we progressed through a massive UX and UI redesign. One thing that you have to understand first is that at the time of ZBoot, the ECC team was really undergoing a massive transition, and it opened the doors to the community for the first time in a very long time. I joined ECC right about that time, and I could follow how Josh, as the new CEO, brought in the essential transparency for the community, and he also introduced a strong vision for Zashi as a product, with which united the team around this common mission. By the way, if you haven't seen it, Josh had a State of ECC presentation earlier, and he talked about this in greater detail. So if you missed it, make sure to check it out. ZBoot, as you can see in the photo, was a literal new dawn for the ECC team. As captured by our iOS developer, Lukáš, in the early morning hours in Palm Springs, What started at Zboot was a transformational rebirth of the team's direction and ways of working. Our #1 Zashi goal was set, and that was that we need to ship, and fast. And ship we did, right? Zashi 1.0 on iOS went live at the end of March. Android followed a month later, and we shipped on Android about 15 more releases that year and about 18 more on iOS. This, what you have just seen in the short clip, is a list of product issues that we have completed and delivered in the subsequent releases. And it doesn't include bug fixes, needs to be said. Our #2 Zashi goal was to deliver products that drive adoption of Zcash. And all the decisions we made last year, we try to make with this principal mission in mind. From Tatiana's research, we learned that ZEC payments are good for Zcash. She was able to identify a general pattern that users who transact in Zcash are more likely to recommend Zcash than users who hold it. And so we realized that focusing on facilitating payments in Zcash could be the ultimate driver for its adoption. And so we did what we do best, and we shipped some solutions. In September, while redesigning the app and adding other useful features to Zashi, we released the Coinbase Onramp integration, which allows Zashi users to top up their wallet directly inside Zashi. Users who are based in the US can do so with just a phone number and a debit card. Users who are based elsewhere can do so by authenticating with their existing Coinbase account. No hustle, no frills. Your Zcash is going directly to your Zashi wallet, and you can right away start using it and transact. The next feature or integration that was a massive accomplishment was a payment with Flexa. In November, we rolled out this integration that was highly expected, highly desired, and right now, Zashi users can pay at supported merchants in Zcash without the need to exchange it first. So far, only users in the US, Canada, and El Salvador can benefit from it, but Flexa is working diligently on expanding their availability as well as the merchant pool. You will hear from Trev later today, so make sure not to miss his talk, because that's the future of payments, friends. I hope that you have already got a burrito and paid for it in Zack. If not, you gotta try it. It feels amazing. The launch of Flexa was embraced and followed by a huge wave of support, not only from the Zcash community, but also from the AMP community, whose cross-promotional efforts had direct impact on Zashi downloads and kept this information trending on Twitter for days to come. You can observe the spike in Zashi iOS downloads on the launch day, or right after the launch day on November 26th, which is the biggest spike in downloads since Zashi's launch at the end of March. And similarly, you can also see an apparent spike on the very same date. And again, it's the biggest one that we have seen since launch of Zashi Android. So undeniably making impact. #3 goal that Josh kept reiterating at Zboot and the subsequent summits was to have user-friendly access to private storage. And so the whole team united again around another mission right at the end of the year. And that mission was to deliver shielded hardware support for Zcash. Thanks to their incredible effort and expertise, and also thanks to the Keystone team, who I have to say were nothing short of amazing, we fulfilled another Zcash's dream, and we released Keystone hardware wallet integration right before Christmas. Not many people know, but imagine that the integration with Zashi took us only 5 weeks to deliver. It's an incredible milestone for the Zcash community and also for the ECC team. And I also have to mention the revolutionary work that Strat has done on the PCZT implementation or partially constructed Zcash transaction, which made it all possible. The reactions from the community were again overwhelmingly positive, and I think both the ECC team and the Keystone team should feel rightfully extremely proud for making this happen so fast. Another reason why the team should feel proud is the movement in the shielded ZAC supply and in the Orchard pool in particular. As Josh mentioned in his previous talk, the Zashi release and Keystone release have undeniably impacted the rise of the shielded ZAC pool. Before Zashi, the shielded supply was right here at about 200,000 ZAC, and at the beginning of this month, we surpassed 1,200,000 ZAC. So talking of driving adoption, right? From the recent user research surveys that Tatiana has conducted, we also can see that the Net Promoter Score has significantly improved for Zcash in particular, and also it's looking very promising for Zashi. If you're not familiar, the Net Promoter Score is a market research metric that reflects how likely a user is to recommend a product or service. It ranges from negative 100 points up to the positive 100 points. Obviously, the negative ones being the absolute hell and the positive ones being absolute heaven. As you can observe, the NPS score for holding Zcash and transacting in Zcash in general has progressed from -60 to getting to positive numbers in the year 2024. And right now, the NPS score for holding ZAC is 21, and for transacting in ZAC is 33. You can also probably observe that Zashi's NPS scores are even higher than Zcash's, which in translation means that users are more likely to Zashi than Zcash, and also that they are more likely to recommend it for transacting in ZAC rather than holding it. Speaking of Zashi Vault. When we set out on the Zashi mission, I heard Zcashers say, why can't we ever have nice things? And so we say that Zcashers can have nice things. And in the spirit of that, we redesigned Zashi into what it is today, a slick, user-friendly platform for private payments. You can observe all the differences when taking a closer look at the redesigned home screen. We try to build on top of the existing brand, but also focused on improving the UX and UI experience and elevating the designs. This is our redesigned send screen. Right now, you can also sign transactions with Keystone, not just send from Zashi. We also redesigned our receive screen with plenty of very useful user feedback. We got rid of all the confusing terms, and we created a design that kind of softly nudges the user to lean towards using the shielded Zcash, which is the goal. You can also see how our settings screen grew with the introduction of other powerful features like the integrations I was describing before, or address book, request seg feature, and others. I think it looks like we are moving onward, right? So allow me to spend a little moment reflecting on some of the major changes that happened in the ECC team this year. We had quite a few impactful hires, including me. I have joined the team as a product and project manager in February, and I try to do my best to manage our product development process and support cross-team collaboration inside the ECC team. We hired another Android developer, Milan, who helped us bring the platforms and releases into sync. So right now we are coordinated on both iOS and Android. Tatiana has come back to the ECC team to support our roadmap planning with her user research efforts and lead Zashi product marketing. Pablo joined the team, and with his help, we took the Zashi design entirely in-house, and he is actually the person standing behind the updated Zashi look. Lastly, Dan also joined the Zashi team, and he's doing a fantastic job helping us with QA, user support, and community management. But I have to say that it wasn't just the new hires who made this happen. It was the culture of discipline and high standards that Josh has set for the team, which is keeping us focused, productive, and agile. The incredible dedication and professionalism that this team is bringing to the table is something to be envied by any high-performing startup. And I have to say that I know I'm biased, you guys, but I have, this is not my first rodeo, and I have to admit that these are some of the smartest people I have ever had the pleasure of working with. And we continue to ship, and that's what matters, right? Releasing things and iterating with you, our users. Don't forget, in 2024, we made 16 Android releases and 19 iOS releases. We also started doing all hands quarterly roadmap planning. Twice a year, we meet in person, and we also include selected community representatives. We adjust our roadmap quarterly, and we do it for a very good reason. It allows us to stay agile, to plan in real time, and prioritize developing things that our users and community need, and also things that we believe are going to ultimately help drive the adoption of Zashi and Zcash. A few more thoughts about the process, which is based on iterating with our users. Welcome to our feature backlog. This is a place where we collect all the incoming user feedback, regardless of the source. And every quarter, when we do our quarterly planning, we review all the user requests in the feature backlog, and we pull ideas we would like to prioritize into our planning sessions, and then together with the team, we figure out how to make them happen and shape them up so that the users can be excited about their feedback being reflected in what we built and how. One could say we basically redesigned Zashi with our users, because we reviewed and implemented a lot of user feedback as we progressed through the app redesign. Because our process is driven by user feedback, users' problems, and users' needs, we are in a unique position right now to make user-driven protocol changes and build for real-world utility of Zcash, not just for the purpose of R&D discovery. Let me share some exciting Zashi stats with you. Let's start with Android first. Before even reaching its first birthday, which is going to be on April 28th, Zashi Android has already collected more than 15.5 thousand users. Keep in mind that all of these are organic installs we have collected with minimum marketing effort. The trending countries with the most installs on Android right now are Nigeria, USA, India, Russia, and Kenya on the 5th place. Let's have a brief look at Zashi iOS as well. Zashi iOS will celebrate its first birthday at the end of this month, and until today it has been downloaded by more than 8,000 people. All are again just organic downloads. The distribution of countries is slightly different here because it's iOS. Most likely we can see that the US is the top trending country with downloads. Number 2 is Russia. After that, UK and Nigeria, and Ukraine is taking the 5th spot. And so what is left to say? What comes next for Zashi, right? So let's have a look at that together. Recently, we managed to release Zashi Android on GitHub and F-Droid. We wanted to make sure that Zashi is going to be available to users who opted out of the Google ecosystem. So that was something that we owed from the Q4 roadmap. And right now we're working on transparent address rescue to help people recover their funds from transparent only wallets like Ledger. We are also doing research and kind of thinking through the implementation for seed phrase backup. And at the same time, we are proceeding through another batch of redesign. This time, we are starting to focus on home screen and onboarding. While our core team is busy with Zcash deprecation work, we try to focus heavily on mobile heavy features and try to utilize any intersections with features that are getting currently built for the CLI wallet Zale, like auto shielding, address rotation, or send controls. We have other big priorities for 2025. The major one is, of course, making Zashi the best-in-class shielded wallet. But we will keep updating our roadmap every quarter to reflect any progress that we make, any other potential circumstances, or promising partnerships. Maya DEX integration, Maya payments, and swaps are a big one that we want to deliver support for this year. We actually had some representatives from the Maya team over at the ZEX Summit, where we tested initial Maya swaps design prototypes, and we really can't wait to start building things with them. They are fantastic and also very dedicated bunch. Among other things, we also want to look into on-ramp and off-ramp integrations and solutions that could be more widely accessible to users globally. We want to do more research, as has been mentioned by Josh, into instant payments and liberated payments. And we also want to make sure that we support the Zcash shielded assets whenever they become available. We are also exploring other opportunities for partnerships, like working with Brave on the extended memo support, or seeing what we could potentially build for Zashi with near intents, which is another exciting news for the ecosystem. Our other priorities are Zashi Vault, as has been mentioned as well. The plan is to continue the design and exploration phase at this point, and we also included a possible mixnet integration as one of our potential focus areas. Sounds like we are busy enough, right? And time for announcement. You ready, guys? Freshest piece of news is that we have just released Zashi 1.4. And this release includes a massive transaction history design with new transaction filters, with search, with adding nodes, private nodes, I dare say, to help you remember payment details and other practical improvements. You can also test a new export text file feature, which allows you to download your transaction history for the last year. So please update your Zashi, give us feedback. We would really love to hear it. So one could assume, in conclusion, that based on the data that I have presented, by sharing Zashi, you actually drive Zcash adoption. So don't forget to do it, please. Like Zcash Brazil, who have done a tremendous job very recently with their Zcash booth at Modular Carnival. Real big shout out to you guys. Thank you so much for promoting Zashi. I hope I have managed to demonstrate that ECC has a reason to celebrate. What do you think? Let us know. We would love to hear from you. Thank you to ECC team for making all of this possible. Be proud, you rock. Thanks for your attention, Z crowd. We appreciate the time you spent watching, and nothing else remains to be said than onward. And I think we can have a look at the questions coming in. and see if we can get to answer a few. Josh, would you like to start?
Sure. So the first question that came in is, when will we see Zashi desktop? It's a great question. It's come up a few times. So the part of our, we need that feedback as part of the user research. So it's not that we would have, like, Zashi itself wouldn't be ever, Zashi is intended to be a mobile wallet, but Zashi Vault potentially is would have a desktop version if we can get there and if there's enough demand. So will Zashi Vault have premium paid options or features? It's another thing we're exploring. And so there's a question of, like, what somebody's willing to pay for and, like, how do we monetize it? So, like, is it something that the community pays for and it's completely free? Is it something that users pay for? Is there certain features that people would be willing to pay for? That's been a question in some of the Tatiana surveys. I think one of them came back that, you know, stuff like multi-sig, people don't want to pay for, right? They want that capability. They just expect that capability for free. But inheritance planning, maybe, or white glove service kind of, or, you know, support services, a call desk, a place that you can call and get support, maybe. So the short answer is we don't know yet, but tell us. And we'd love to make as much free as possible. But we also have to, like, maintain the software. So, and that costs some money. So we just need to figure that out. The other is, like, the other option potentially is with swaps. So, like, if we're doing swaps through the wallet, like, can we take a few basis points on a swap, and then that funds our work? Again, maybe, but that's part of our research. Next question you can answer, Andrea. Is it a priority to ensure Zashi is the go-to wallet to mint and or hold ZSAs?
Absolutely. I think I made it clear in the presentation as well. It's definitely our priority because we can see the community asking for it. And one thing that we want to make sure about is that we hear the community's voices. So this is one of the principal huge innovations that is going to be introduced with the next network upgrade. And we want to make sure that Zashi is going to be part of it. So 100%.
Okay, this next, with multiple organizations and individuals contributing to the evolution of Zcash, it seems that we all might be in dire need of a clubhouse to relax. I know this is going, and I know who posted this question. Clubhouse to relax, collaborate, and even disagree together. Will any members of the team be in France this summer to join us for the inaugural Shielded Sandbox event at the Zebra Lounge? So it sounds like we need to get more information on what the Zebra Lounge, what's going on at the Zebra Lounge and the Shielded Sandbox, and I don't have those details. So please post that stuff out so maybe the community can join. All right, this next one is, will Zashi support Orchard only unified addresses? Having the option to turn off transparent support is powerful and useful. Right now, we don't have the intention to turn off transparent address. Now, Zashi is a shielded by default wallet, which means, like, you can't, if you receive transparent funds, you have to shield them in order to use them. So we don't support, like, transparent to transparent. So, but the goal is then to have an option to turn on auto shielded. You can see even in the design, like the designs that Andrea showed, and if you've used the wallet, like, transparent addresses are kind of like a second class citizen. So you're prompted through the user experience to use shielded addresses, and driving towards, you know, shielded transactions. Any plans to move to a multi-platform framework like Flutter? I'm not familiar with that. Andrea, do you know?
Not at the moment. And I think guys, if they hear this question, they're going to be like, when? We are running in full speed, and so changing the entire infrastructure and building it in a different programming language is, I think, right now out of question. So we do understand that it might have certain benefits because of streamlining the development on the mobile side, but we don't have any plans like that. And we feel like we find certain benefits in having the native, having the Zashi built inside the native environment with Kotlin and with Swift. So no current plans like that.
Okay, so the next question is when Zashi 2.0, Andrea?
That's a good one. Ask me after the next quarterly planning. I think we have a clear view of 1.4 just went live. We know what 1.5 is going to be, and we are already working on 2.0. So it all depends on what's going to be the final set of features that we want to include. But you know us, we never like to sit on updates. So whenever we have something that we can ship to you guys, we will do so. I also want to get back to one question and react to it. Zashi development milestones have been slower each time as on roadmaps. Is the new roadmap going to be more accurate? Well, we certainly hope so. You should see how difficult it is to get an estimate out of a core developer. But we have to understand that we are dealing with people's finances, right? Jokes aside, and the cryptography that is involved is sometimes slowing us down, and we have to make sure that we have rigorous review process and that nothing that could mess up with people's funds is going to go live into production. So it is correct that sometimes things are getting slower, and sometimes they are getting slower because we prioritize other stuff like Keystone that we delivered in 5 weeks. So I think the agility with making the roadmap and trying to adhere to everything that we put out there, that's why we make it quarterly, and we want to make sure that we improve in our estimates as much as we can. So going forward, you will see some tendency for improvement, I hope.
Yeah, some things like we can get done very rapidly and you wouldn't expect it, and some things would take a long time that don't seem like they would be that hard, but they might, again, like you're saying, compromise privacy or security, and some side channel attack or something like that somebody doesn't even necessarily think about. So that's all part of the process, but the team's been cranking. So this next one is, what about time locks without revocation? So since the feature suggestion we had to write down, i.e. for estate planning, ZEC be time locked or trust for errors, or create ZEC denominated bonds. Control of keys could be traded at a discount from underlying value of the wallet as per unexpired time on a bond time. This is a pretty complicated, kind of interesting feature request. As funds couldn't be accessed until time lock expires, secondary markets based on spot price and duration time lock would develop. Okay, so that one I think we'll have to come back to. As it relates to errors, that's one of the things we're looking at, is like, how do you manage like multiple errors, and how do you divide that up appropriately? Kind of the initial thinking is that you can have multiple vaults, and the easy way is to allow an error per vault. It's like, how do we keep this as simple as possible for most amount of users to provide the greatest kind of capability and ensure that they're safe and secure, and the product is working in a way that kind of honors that. So, but keep the suggestions coming in, and we'll look at all that stuff. Is Zashi accepting community contributions? What's the best way to start contributing, Andrea?
I actually had an idea in the back of my mind. Somebody mentioned that before. Signal has this donate feature, and other like incredible pieces of tech have something like that. So maybe we could, get a donate feature inside Zashi.
I think
and you could send us some ZEC.
I think that in this case is my guess. My guess is this one's not about money. It's about how can they contribute capabilities, maybe. So
for builders.
If I'm wrong, but maybe we could answer that question anyway. How can devs contribute in some way?
Absolutely. We are all open source. You can visit our GitHub repos. You can get in touch with us. If you want to start talking about anything that you would like to build, the best place to connect with us is our Discord. And so reach out. We will make sure that Dan or me personally can connect you with the right people and set you up because we do want to make sure that this is a shared effort, and we appreciate any community contributions that we can get. Absolutely.
Okay, I think we have one more time, one more question, and then we have to wrap up because we're running over time. So the question for you, Andrea, is when will Turkish language support be available? My team and I are ready to translate Zashi into Turkish.
I know, it's incredible. We have already a few people offering to translate, and I know that Turkish is one of the languages that people are reaching out about. So we want to make sure that we create and set up a process for management of the translation, because whenever we do localize Zashi into another language, everything has to be happening in all the languages, and so it brings a little extra overhead for maintenance, for translating release notes, for translating texts for new features. So we have to have a system set up before we introduce more complexity and more languages. And that's something that I would love to bring to our next roadmap planning for prioritization. We also had offers for Portuguese and other languages, and I would love to see that community effort being utilized. So thank you for mentioning it.
Awesome. So I think we're at time. Andrea, amazing job. You're a star. This is fantastic. Thank you, everybody in the community, for tuning in. And
Likewise.
next sessions.